Hi everyone, it's Eric, and Apple just recently announced a few more devices at their keynote, and in this video I'm going to talk about them. So let's very quickly just get past a few of them. So first, Apple sort of like did a slight upgrade to the Apple Watch. I wouldn't even really call it an upgrade. They gave it a different color and a few different bands basically. They also did the Apple TV, which I was really quite surprised by actually. The Apple TV to me has been really boring, but Apple really basically took it to where it should have been in the first place. So the Apple TV usually is something which I would normally have no use for whatsoever, but now that they've actually introduced an app system basically and catalog for the new Apple TV, it'll be very useful for many people. Many people actually enjoy using it as a sort of entertainment device. I personally have no use in it whatsoever. I've got a PS4 just sitting on to my left right over here. And yeah, not for me at all, but I could see it being an entertainment device for many other people that many people will be satisfied with. So good job, Apple, right there. I think that's actually one of the strongest things you've done, and it really took me by surprise. Next, I'm just going to talk about the other things Apple announced basically in regards to the iOS devices. So Apple did announce the iPad Pro. It's basically what we expected, a 12.9-inch iPad. And that's all it is basically. If you were to ask me to describe it to you, I'd just say it's a bigger iPad. And that's kind of one of its problems actually. I'll get to my other opinions in a sec, but I just want to quickly say, we actually thought that this iPad Pro would actually be sort of like a hybrid of both the OS X and iOS. But it wasn't. It was actually just basically a bigger iPad. So yeah, in terms of use case scenario, I'll get to that in a sec, but in terms of it just seems too basic. Apple went for the easy way out, just make a bigger iPad as opposed to basically just, you know, combining iOS and OS X. That would have been really quite interesting and possibly innovative as well, and something to compete with Windows 8 and 10 devices. It also comes with a 12.9-inch Retina display, and obviously Apple have great displays, especially with their Retina displays, and their iPad displays have been really quite good. And I always have issues with their iPhone displays. I think they could do better with those, but in regards to the iPads, their displays have been absolutely terrific. And design-wise, it's really quite thin as well. It comes in 3 different colors: silver, space gray, and gold. So that is all great as well. It's also got, for me, which I found interesting, as you all know, I love consuming media. It actually has speakers placed on 4 corners of the device, which is great. Still not as good as front-facing, obviously, but that's a step in the right direction, because I thought the speakers on the iPad have always been one of the biggest downfalls. You've got a really nice screen on the iPad, but the speakers always let it down, and that sort of like puts me off of watching anything on it when I've reviewed an iPad in the past. And now let's talk about the accessories and peripherals it comes with. So basically the iPad Pro has got an A9X processor, which is meant to do really fast when it comes to editing certain videos, 4K video in particular. That's what they really pushed. And it comes with a new smart keyboard, which is basically the smart keyboard you get with the Microsoft Surface Pro 3s. And that was a great design with that, and this is obviously competing with those. And with the amount of Apple patents and stuff Apple puts out these days, I'm quite surprised they actually did that right there, really, if you ask me. But they did it, and it looks practically identical to the Surface Pro's keyboard. I haven't tried it, so I can't say what it's like actually using it, but from what I've heard, people say it's a bit weird, but you get used to it. But, you know, take that for what it's worth until they actually come out. But my main problem with this is the pricing. Now, this actual smart keyboard actually costs around about $180, which for us, I'm going to assume is around about 150 to 180 pounds as well. That is way too much for a keyboard like this. I know the keyboards can actually all cost quite a lot, but when you take into the account the price of the iPad Pro, which starts off at about $800, and I'd assume about 800 pounds as well, then if you want to get a 128GB version, which is the next one up, you're going to have to pay about $1,000 or about £1,000. That is, again, way too much right there. Then when you add in the price of this keyboard, that is going to pretty much get right into the laptop territory right there, and that is not on. I've got a MacBook Pro 15-inch sitting right behind me, and when you add in these two prices right over here, and plus that's got a 500GB hard drive as opposed to a 128, I can't do anything with 128GB. This is obviously not enough, and the price is just really too high. And then Apple announced the Apple Pencil. Now, that made me laugh when I saw the name. I didn't watch the event, but once I did look at the little bit of the event, I was happy to see that other people, or the iSheep as I call them, were laughing in the audience as well. It turns out everyone's found that name very funny. It's very obvious. I'm pretty certain everyone noticed that Apple are trying to differentiate themselves so much from Samsung's Pen, S Pen. They didn't want to call it the Apple Pen or anything like that, so they just added a sol at the end, an Apple Pencil. Such a silly and ridiculous name, but that's what they basically released, and it's meant to obviously compete with the S Pen pretty much in terms of its functionality, and it's nothing new. Apple described it as revolutionary, you know, like completely familiar, entirely revolutionary, it says right here. That is not true, because everything they showed I've seen before, and I've seen Samsung do it with their new generations of Note devices. In fact, Samsung got a few more features actually on their part. So not entirely revolutionary, unless Apple are basically saying that they are complimenting Samsung, because Samsung came up with this first Apple. So basically you're saying Samsung's S Pen is entirely revolutionary. Apple fanboys, sound off below if you're going to start raging at me. But there you go, basically. And the pencil, to tell you the truth, this is something that the iPad should have had on year one of its release. When the iPad released, everyone was thought, what if the iPad could be used as a blooming graphics tablet? That was one of the uses everyone thought when the first iPad was announced, using it for artists. Now, it's been done in the past few years, but it hasn't really been done very elegantly, so Apple are trying to resolve that right here. But I feel like it's about 4-5 years too late, really, because now tablets are not really used. Well, they are used, of course, and some artists have been using it for this purpose, but I think Apple really should have taken advantage of this sort of like feature back when there was hype for it. But now the time has come and gone. There's going to be certain people using it, but there's not really an audience that's like really excited for it anymore. Back then we were so pumped for it, but now it's one of those things that have come and gone and we just don't really care anymore. That's at least from what I've seen. Maybe there are many people out there that still want this type of thing, and if they did, then great, that's great. But the thing that's not so great is that it costs about $100, and I assume it will cost about £100 as well. That is not on Apple. I mean, seriously, when Apple released the S Pen and things like that, they include one, and it comes with all these features and things like that. But Apple are charging you another fee on top of that if you want to use this with the iPad Pro. And again, that comes up very close to the price of a MacBook Pro here. This 15-inch MacBook Pro cost me £1,500. You could get a MacBook Pro for 13-inch for about £1,000. And if you get these second-hand, potentially you could probably look around the £1,000 range. Paying this much money for essentially a tablet, and tablets nowadays basically mean nothing to us anymore. I've got a Nexus 7 right up there that's just sitting up there doing nothing, collecting dust. I used it when it came out, but tablets really have sort of like not caught anyone's interest much anymore, because smartphones are getting bigger. The iPhone 6 Plus basically dropped sales of the iPad mini, and that's one of the reasons I don't use my Nexus 7. I got a Nexus 6 right here, which has got a 6-inch screen. It's perfect for me. So yeah, I know it's a 12.9-inch iPad, but really the money I think does not warrant it. I thought I'd be more mad about it at first, which I kind of was, but to tell you the truth, if you want this big iPad, go for it, because you know what you're getting your money on. But there is, when you get down to it and ask yourself, do I need this? You don't. If you have a laptop, or you know, even a lower end MacBook Pro, you can do the gist of what that new iPad Pro can do. And if you have a very old MacBook, you should think of upgrading your MacBook your MacBook Pro if you're thinking on and considering getting an iPad Pro, because seriously, you could basically do much more things with a MacBook Pro or a laptop, and you could be much more productive. I cannot achieve the same amount of productivity I've achieved with this device with an iPad Pro, and I know that for certain. Okay, so that's my opinion on the iPad Pro. It's not something I'm going to be getting at all. It's not something I have any interest in at all. It was a wasted opportunity in my sense, because I really would have liked to see Apple sort of like do a hybrid of iOS and OS X. They didn't. So yeah, if you want it, go for it. But to say the truth, it's one of those things that you just want to get the latest and greatest gadget. That's all it is if you want to get one of these, because you can actually achieve much more if you spend less and probably get one of Apple's MacBook Airs in terms of just basic web browsing or communicating, because people are going to use this for communicating with their clients. But to tell you the truth, you can do that with a MacBook Air. And if you want to do more hardcore editing, get a MacBook Pro. You'll get much more value out of it than what you will get with this iPad Air, and much more hard drive space as well. So that's a big thing if you want to do video editing, and the iPad Pro does not have that for me either, so that takes away a lot of value for me. Yet Apple still increased the price of it, so not for me. So enough talk about the iPad Pro.